Hello. We're launching this. This is a little bit inside the event about the European Union of Imaginary Authors. I've written this so that I've verbal for a long time. So here we go. I decided to write poems of the European Union of Imaginary Authors, the EUOIA. Looks so clever using the 5 vowels. Long before I thought it would feature as part of a European Union of Real Authors Festival, for which many thanks to Stephen Fowler, MC extraordinaire of the Camarades. I decided to write them long before the ugly neologism, now not so neo-Brexit, arrived to complicate the project and to give it a fresh political edge. If the right poets for the times don't exist, it seems, then they have to be invented. I decided to write these poems working for a list of 28 imaginary poets drawn up for another project collaboratively to ensure the variety that such a project deserves. I took my lead from the collaborators. They chose the country and poet and often wrote the biographies that are sprinkled among the biographies of the real poets listed at the end of this newly published volume, Twitters for a Lark, I'm holding up there for a purpose, so I'm rather hoping that people will buy it for sale out there, and I've got a few more copies here. Some of the poems actually were first devised for the Camarades of various kinds. In fact, the first collaboration was one actually here in Manchester. But I was ill, so I wasn't there. So it was read by a single voice, which helped me decide this next bit. I decided in performance that, apart from a number of two-voice pieces, like the first piece, the results of the processes of collaboration, the production of a third voice, as collaboration theory suggests, and in our case, the production of persons and personas and personas to inhabit that voice, demanded that a single voice should render the single and singular poems, which is not the characteristic practice of collaborative performance, as you've heard tonight. So remember that everything you hear was produced collaboratively between my 7 guests and myself, although you may hear only one voice and not a lot of me. That means tonight in this section you'll be hearing 15 poets reading, not all of them read. So I'll just run through the list of readers largely so the readers know which order they're in. So that's Patricia Farrell, Stephen Fowler, Tom Jenks, Joan Ashcroft, Scott Thurston, James Byrne and Sandy Palmer. So we're going to start with the piece that Patricia Farrell and I wrote. This is actually a two-voice piece, and our poet is a Bulgarian poet called Ivalio Dimitra, born in 1979. Very little is known about him other than he lives in Burgess, in Norway. As you do. Behind into beyond.
Left, right.
Botev the horse and the back end of the Trabant. The socialist centaur.
Trot, split. Kiss
Cognitive
my
volition.
Bend me, green, red.
Red wine, heavy on the oak table.
Plant me, flowers on my sky, blue.
Fermented breeze.
On which I roll. The world in 3 small balls.
Masked by our own immunity. What we know is what we slice through the grills, forced across our eyes.
Pink, green.
Held up by wires, props steadied by strings.
Look, see.
Roped in tight, smoothed out.
Along the road.
Motion is effortless.
Behind the trees.
Bent into strange alphabets.
Green, pink.
My scuffed trainers under your face.
Turn, fork.
Touch me.
Touch me.
Morning in the circle, cut into it.
Back into my middle. Behind into beyond.
Your gaze judges absurdity singly.
The mirror of my mother. Land leap.
Your children's mobile above their plastic dinosaurs.
My father's smile.
Photograph, it's a cheap wedding long ago.
the clock that tells 3 shining discs.
Left, let's kiss.
Running right, hover hop.
Leading to communal apartment blocks.
Floating home, yellow flower.
Remember the pattern on the carpet, it will guide you through the metal doors into death. It's a map showing everything you have faithfully forgotten. Next collaborator was Stephen Fowler, and we took on board the creation of a Swede. Oh, that's the note on Stephen, not on the... That's what I mean, you see.
We're both miserable.
They're all miserable. We're all miserable. Born into a gentrified family, after a brief period of studying in London and Uppsala, Bergstrom became a student of music in Paris and became familiar with the work of the Camarade. Her first collection, Flack, 1977, was not received with any particular fanfare, so we're going to read from that one. And there's 2 poems here. We'll read first.
Sure. My granddad was Swedish, so I could read this with a Swedish accent, but I'm not going to. The poem is called When One in Pointlessness Has Come As Far As I, or When One in Pointlessness Has Come As Far As I. That's Swedish translation. When one has come as far as I in pointlessness, scraping the surface from the rock, each word enthralls in a band that coils me and binds me to you. Finds in the loam where I sink fast feet first, which one appears with the archaeologist's shovel, mudman rising from the past. The giant word, I. Buried within my tiny presence, perhaps a stone shard, hard that. Some toothless man has used to scrape his morbid word meat. The minute word you, scrubbed up in my astonished absence. Maybe a pearl of glass that once hung around another's neck, brought from the sunken grave mound, keeps time from meaning anything at all.
This is the other one. This is the other one she wrote. The silence of the yawning is vast. The silence of the yawning night is vast, unspittled. It is not concerned with the scrabbling of human beings who, vastly overmouthed, devour each other upon the shoreline, crunching bones and gulping sad flesh, fluids. And I can hear, though the ear is folded upon its own echoes like a shell, the glorious water sound from ships who sail upon the sea out there, with bleak parrot voices of beaky fulfillment, the shanties of the sandy respite of the pseudo-Crusoe. These ships, are they truly so naive, so predictable, like little ferries crossing to the little islands? Sometimes I hear from out there the drawn howls of the living, of the dying, as though. Thank you. I knew working with Tom Jenks would be gas, and it was. And I guess Tom decided that we would take on Luxembourg, the big number. And we'd like to read a poem by Gail Blindstein, a poet. And now the poem, I don't know about the poem really, do we? But you know, but
it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. But his whole life is not a mystery, because in the notes on contributors, where most people it just very short little items, the Blindstein goes on and on and on, and it kind of reaches 2016 when we were writing it, and it just goes on and on and on and ends, and then he dies, and it goes on and on and on. So I think the latest reference is 2080 something. But he was born in 1965 and he died in 2046, and we'll leave the glories of his biography to his biographers. And we're going to read a poem, As a Dumbness, As a Jail, as a two-foot. Vow, vow, woo, shalia. Book. Ahoy! War.
You oath. One.
Aqua. Had. Moa. Shit, I thought I was turning into Scott Walker there. Anyway, one of the strangest poets is the Slovakian poet, but we're going to read one of his least strange poets. This is the poem Joan Ashcroft and I wrote, and it's there somewhere. You can read it. She's going to read the entire poem. What can I say? What can you say about it? Well, you can't say anything unless you can find his biography. He's published 49 books of poetry, many of them illustrated by his characteristic spindly ink drawings, for which he's better known in Slovakia. He's also he's a kind of disappointed Anglophile, because he's never been to England, but probably given that piece about our new leader, it's probably just as well, really. But I'll leave Joanne to read this poem.
Okay, thank you. As I drank double espressos in the shade outside store, the parade of fashionable women with their lap dogs and laptops lusted after my chestnut cheesecake. Illuminated by headless hats, I swallowed a slice with powdered moustache and wiped my mouth across my silver sleeve to disgust them all. Still the castle squatted over the city swelter, until lightning slashed its pronounced silhouette, keep of the golden treasure of Kashish and the art of art lovers. Besieged by a jealous sky, the city poured into byways. I dripped into the galeria of socialist realism. Every stroke of private feeling, equivocal smudges around the eyes. Every shade of public thought, a mouth of explicit driblets, small hand signals. Pictures of health and happiness, paintings with titles like The Industrialisation of Our Countryside, oozed from the walls. So I escaped into the glittering sunshine, glimmering grey square. Already at ease, the musicians had attracted a crowd. I nudged myself a seat beside a garish pair of puppets, no less garish than I in my motley clown of the quotidian disaster. A foul-mouthed Russian lurched onto a stage of his own imagining. A fake-haired American leered into his camera, capturing a morsel of disordered flesh for consumption or ransom, mutually assured deconstruction. I fled to the exquisite English tapestries in Prima Sialny Palace, which had me in mind of Marlowe, poor Marlowe, invited to a deadly feast in Dartford, as fate, not will, and here the secret of Hero and Leander had laid hidden in the Hall of Mirrors until I disturbed it with my dank presence, like George Chaplin lending his hand to completing the tale, interloper, interpreter. Just George, who heard Homer's heroes sing in the Bratko Myomachia, another penniless poet in the city seeking a patron, croaking out his days. I glide off into Perspex fountains, sculptures celebrating black holes. In slow time now the work I was to do is done. I weave ways out of these eternal prisons.
When I listen to those, it's quite interesting because I can't remember which bits, who wrote what. It's quite interesting. That's just maybe time, but also just that third voice. Got off lightly tonight by actually not doing any of our Baltic poets, so that's quite good. I'm quite glad about that. Because one of them is nuttier than that one. And our next one is Scott Thurston and I created a Maltese. And the first time we read this, I remember saying just before Scott read, I said, "Oh, news just in, Hubert Zuba has died." So that must have been 2015, because that is the date. But
It was a bit distracting
but-
just before you.
yeah, but he's living again. He lives on in the words, in our words. So
Actually, some previously unseen manuscripts of rather dubious provenance have begun to surface recently, so we may not have quite heard the last of Hubert Zuba yet. And out. New arrival in port. Ditch the goods, dump the van, drop the mood. Full throttled silence. Find on these kinds of tiller your misplaced misery. Ship your broken affairs. Throttled silence on a free rock. Is pay alert for nose holes of worn swimwear and drying sheets soiled with misplaced love, exuding a sickly sexuality as though they've been fucked by ghosts. If arranging the aircraft kits is out, scooping these islands together like beans in a stew, determined prime to breakers, will slither down the storm drains, slip away to our miserable mother. The only way is down. Thank you very much.
Zuba was a miserable mother. I worked on a Croatian with James Byrne. This is to remind people who's. And Martina Markovic. And Croatia joined the EU after I'd drawn up the original list, so I had to add a new one, this was quite fortuitous, really, because after the introduction, the Croatian poet Damir Soden back translated one of the poems we're going to the poem James is going to read in a moment into Croatian. So the book does start with a language that's not English.
I won't read it in Croatian.
Okay.
But it's
So
there.
you're going to read two poems from a long sequence called Memorials. One of the tricks I was playing, or we were playing, was you'd have what looks like extracts. What happens actually when you read anthologies of poetry in a language you don't speak, you find there's a corpus of about 5 poems that appear again in anthologies, and you Google, and it's the same 5 poems, and you can never find any more. So that's the sort of game we're playing with these, so there isn't more. But we're going to read 2 poems from Memorials. James is going to read the first.
I'd just like to add that Martina, who I've got to know a little bit since we translated her email yesterday, and said that she is sorry she couldn't read the poem, but is in Croatian. And she had a cryptic note to her email, which was that translation is like sniffing a box of cooking apples. but not like eating the apple pie, is what she said. So, Memorials. This is Memorial 7. The broken news is breaking forever in flash after flash. Teenagers addicted to e-cigarettes, Serbophobic landlords with frothy teeth. An earring pinches me back into reality, the dip of an oar, the soft unrolling of wavelet on the steady shoreline. As if sunlight passed through the kitchen barefoot and grandmother never sucked on her thirsted dentures. Memory's beggary, no such thing as perfect murder. For the ex-Ustazi who would bundle me up like firewood, I give him my daffy look, memorial of this one rushing second, and am gone. History creased and flaky on the backsides of banknotes, infinitely exchangeable, infinitely rubbed raw. A cloud of fruit flies festers above the soft apricots.
26. Crust of soot. Fatigued metal creaks along the sloped sides. The town ticks over, adjusting itself with new technologies. Cyber clean and shrink wrapped, the people watch video clips from the age of steam, a platform edge, dusty with snow. One red shoe points intently down the tracks to chalice lights, dummy houses. What more is this province but a colony of cells? The buddlier browns like old wine. We feel the dip of the lines, weight running the length of the dead carriage works. Of exiles, militia winds no clean sweep. Uncle Jovan's spat jail soap, fed a day of the whip, of grass-tufted mud. We feel the sad eyes of a signal peaked by shades. It blinks instructions, coded to the marrow. We conjure warm rushes of steam. Thank you.
James Martinez.
Okay. Finally, we there are countries that think of themselves, as quintessentially European, and I'd like to show you the German page. It's blank, but we're going to move on to France, and I work with Sandy Palmer, who's there somewhere, to work on a poet called Carte Vitale, born in 1973, and Carte Vitale is like a social security card, and I don't think we know anything more about this poet other than the name.
Yep, that's right. And I think one of the things that we had in mind was we wanted to perhaps incorporate a poet who wasn't natively from Europe,
Yes,
possibly.
absolutely.
Okay.
But that's possible. Yeah, it's worth it. We don't say that. And Sandy's going to read the whole of that. Yes.
Domiciled at intervals. The langue orientale du monde arabe. I prefer her silence curled up, impenetrable little white feet on a silk carpet. The divan, hooks lighting a face gifted by the serial despair of imperial afflictions. Her deaf camisole, little white feet, driving me senseless. White, space, a girl, in a duffel coat and shiny DMs, texts, neck bent crouched over the minuscule screen in her palm. Her digit patterns bounce around the globe, back again. Don't stop until they hit a pocket, where jigsaw eyes leave imprints in soft clay, erect poles amid innocent trees, cracked marble, home. The icon, the totem, the toy glows, won't answer. Far off, tutoiement, the gist she is, blank monument in catafalque, skin getting away, white eye, dream of, papered names, the sleepless rim of maison, her cold strobe a nucleus. Lamps domiciled at intervals was once a road breathing. She sucks this tongue dry, she shudders, bubbles of excitement bounce down the road, of excess, moist-lipped, she repels, resistant to his gaze, coal eyelashes unleashing resistance. The body of an Arab rocks at high tide, the foot of the white cliff. Eyes bloated bright with white. I look, fail to look, after all, she is not blank. A painted kimono, purple egrets, unknowable script, flows full from her waist. Into this scene I pour the waters off Lesbos, divine the hour as stateless. My body ashore in the foam down the boulevard de Magenta, the block whipped harder than a man's intimate knees, drops as a tangle, cloying, yearning on the tarmac, the vast arches of La Guerre push up daylight, glimmers through the curving network of iron welcomes. Non-people play at waiting by high-backed benches, dawdling on capacious stairs beneath clocks. Mottled as sentences stare from rocks, monuments countenance me also, where I, moored at dusk, with Laval's Relève les déportés, Vichy underlined as calculable flaw, hamartia, riven moral arrow, fraternité, Atropos. I speak her name and still her white fingers on the console are processing. 5 painted blades fastened to the state. Digitally enhanced image faces you. Down on Facebook, girls dancing across a swastika, a solitary egg rests in the morning's fireplace. Her books turned titles to the wall, a performed silence to morta. Dignitaries arrive at the gym where she cleans, like neon circling a bust of Napoleon. Bagneux radiate, a chaos asiatique, imbricate, serpent, logic, enfattened, singed meat turning on spit. She returns home, little feet, pale roots, terroir that is hers, charnel, phosphate, explodes. Obscene a measure of what means I have walked 3 continents for. This silent evening lit up by voices elsewhere change. Sensitive urban zones. The serpent announces could burn again. She's hugging the serpent tree for balance, gripping the apple earth with little swollen feet. The pasty body of bloodless myth, corpses the corsair ravishes keep. A silent film and a palace of light bleaches the blisters on her toes.